Hey, Bat Family. This is your host, your sister, and your friend, Nkiru, thanking you for another year of listening to Conversations in the Diaspora, a Building Africa's Future podcast. And I want to use this opportunity to invite you all to our upcoming end-of-year virtual event titled Umoja, Lives in Me, Lives in You, in partnership with the Afro-American Cultural Initiative. If you'd like to register, please go to our Instagram pages at Building Africa's Future or at Afrimerican1. That's AFRIMERICANONE, and click on the links in our bios for your free tickets. You can also go to our website, buildingafricasfuture.today, for more information. If you'd like to participate on social media, please use our hashtag livesinmechallenge. Please stay tuned for the following special episode, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Hey, Bat Family. You already know who this is. This is your sister and your friend, Nkiru, of Conversations from the Diaspora, a Building Africa's Future podcast. And I wanted to briefly interrupt your listening for a few moments just to tell you about Anchor. So if you're like me, you've been listening to podcasts for a while, and maybe you thought to yourself that I might want to try this. Listen to me. Go ahead and start your podcast. And it's really easy with Anchor. It's free, and you don't need all the fancy equipment. You can just use your phone or your computer. Pretty easy, right? I think so. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Again, that is Anchor, ANCHOR.FM to get started. See you soon. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. This is Conversations from the Diaspora, a Building Africa's Future podcast. And as usual, I'm your host, your sister and your friend, Nkiru. And for tonight's episode, I'm joined by a special guest of mine who is deciding to stay anonymous for the sake of tonight's episode due to the seriousness of the topic. And it's pretty much a private matter, but I'm really grateful that she's decided to come on the podcast to kind of share this piece of her life. And just to kind of give everyone a slight background before she, tells her story on her own. She lost contact. Her and her mom lost contact of her father's side of the family when they came to the U.S. And she's been trying to reconnect with her dad's side of the family, but it hasn't proved to be successful at the moment. So she's hoping to maybe find some solutions, or maybe just share something that many other people may be able to relate to, especially, as this is, something about the diaspora, the African diaspora. This is an issue that maybe some people have gone through as well, and maybe haven't had the boldness to talk about it with others. So I'm really appreciative that she's coming on tonight. So, sis, if you would just please kind of share with us just a little bit about your journey. I know this is a topic, once again, that's a pretty sensitive one, and it, brings a lot of emotion. I know when you first told me, it was, challenging, and like I said, I appreciate you for even sharing that side of your life with me. So if you can just kind of tell us a little bit, more about your journey to connect with your father's side of the family, and if you could just tell us also at what age or point in your life did you feel that it was something that was necessary for you to do? And what were some of the challenges that you had along the way?
Okay, first and foremost, hi everyone. I hope everyone's having a good time. And Nkiru, thank you so much for providing this platform. And thanks for just being a sister to me, because I know before I told you this, we weren't as close, but you were just so open to listen and help me figure it out. So I'm really grateful, and I love you for that. You're my sister for life now. But anyways, guys, I'm choosing to stay anonymous because family is very important to me. And I just don't want anybody judging my mom or judging my dad, because I will go off. So respectfully. So I'm choosing to stay anonymous, but I feel like this conversation is something that is definitely something that needs to be had because oftentimes, like, it happens, but we as Africans just, kind of sweep it under the rug, and it's made to look as something like shameful when it's like legit, just real life stuff. Anyways,
Right.
so, okay. So I was born in a third world country in West Africa. And it was going through a lot of stuff. And my mom and dad met and fell in love or whatever. He came from somewhere else. She came from somewhere else. Well, to be exact, I mean, she's Liberian and my dad is Nigerian. So they fell in love or whatever. He was in Liberia. He was in Liberia on some business. And they fell in love or whatever. And then came me. So my mom didn't know that, my dad was a little player. So when she actually found out that he had another woman, she was like pregnant with me already. I think she was like 8 months or whatever. So she was like, you know what? I'm not going to be a sister wife, period. Right. And I'm not going to be a sister wife. So the only thing that's between us is our child. And from what she told me, my dad was very loving. He wasn't like the normal Nigerian, the normal Nigerian stereotype, excuse me. He was very loving. He took care of her. He cooked, he cleaned, he was a good guy. He took care of her. It's just that he wanted 2 women and she wasn't with that lifestyle. So he, of course, men, he begged, pleaded and whatever. But my mom stood her ground and she had me, and he gave me a Nigerian name. And but unfortunately he had to go back to Nigeria. So he asked my mom if we could go with her because his mom found out that, he had me and wanted to meet me and wanted to meet my mom. And, I don't know. I guess they wanted them to get married. I don't know what the story is. I don't know, to be honest. Yeah. But so at the time, mind you, it's like, I'm not trying to tell my age, but it's like early 90s. Right. It's early 90s. And there's a lot of horror stories with people who go, have babies with people from different countries, and they go back to their, like the father's country, and they're mistreated. So my mom wasn't trying to take that chance. So my dad was like, all right, you don't feel comfortable coming? At least let me take my daughter so she can know her people. And my mom was like, like, how moms are with their kids. Like, no, she wasn't having it. And also because my maternal grandmother was already in America, and she was trying to get my mom to, my mom and the rest of the family to America. And so, long story short, my dad went back home and we lost contact. So my mom, we went to another country and she got married. And I mean, like, that's who I knew to be my dad. So anyways, long story short, we came to America and that's who I knew to be my dad. So I never questioned it until I was about maybe like 10, like, the age where you start to know things, like, you know how to read. And I was a very curious kid, like from the time I was young, like I was always like ahead of the curve or whatever. I grew up very fast because I was like the only kid amongst adults. Yeah. So like I learned very quickly and all that stuff. So I just started like seeing documentation. I'm like seeing like my dad's name, my last name, is a specific last name, but the guy that, I know to be my dad, that's not his name. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? Right. So I think I was about 10. And I was just like, Ma, like, what's going on? And she's like, oh no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I get to 12. I'm like, Ma, what's going on? She's like, don't worry about it. Like, but at the time I was very selfish, and I'm gonna be honest. I was very selfish. I don't know what trauma she went through that, she didn't want to talk about, but I wanted to know. So I didn't care. I wanted to know. So she kept on like prolonging it until I asked my grandmother, and my grandmother didn't even tell me the truth. She covered for her daughter as she should.
Yeah.
But when I was 14, my mom was just like, you know what? By the way, everything you were saying, yeah, you're right. Your dad is Nigerian. I'm like, okay, so can you tell me more? And she's like, I'm not ready to talk about it yet. So you can imagine being 14, being frustrated, and mind you, she's remarried, and she started a family, and I see how like the relationship with the father and a daughter is supposed to be. And I'm like, yo, like, I want that.
Right.
But it is what it is. So it wasn't until I was about 24 or 25, I would say, she felt comfortable to tell me the whole story, which I just told you guys earlier.
Right.
And yeah, she just apologized, and I was like, okay. Well, I'm glad my dad wasn't a deadbeat. He was just like,
oh gosh.
And that's it. Like, he wasn't a deadbeat. He didn't, after she told me, I was really eager to but my dad has a very common name, so it's hard. And I don't know his Nigerian name. So it's so hard to like figure it out. I did like 23andMe. That wasn't like, it was okay. Like, but it mostly told me like, I mean, it confirmed I was Nigerian. I already knew that. And Liberian. I already knew that, It didn't tell me anything I didn't know. So, yeah, that's about it.
I mean, you wrap a lot of, powerful points, obviously when you were first starting to ask your mom, some of these questions, one, she probably considered your age, and she probably didn't want to, or she probably didn't know how to explain, what happened.
Yeah.
And also maybe she was kind of surprised that you asked that. And
yeah,
it's one of those things that no one is really prepared to answer. So I think, but I'm happy that, obviously the man that you knew to be your dad growing up, loved you and cared for you. So you didn't feel like you were necessarily missing out on much. Because I think it would be a different story if, you didn't have a dad at all in the picture. But I know one thing that's pretty common with, our African countries, unfortunately, but especially during that time period that you're referring to, is this kind of general theme of war and conflict. And I know how that generally kind of separates people. Just naturally, people tend to become displaced because of, wars and conflicts. People become refugees, people become like, seek asylum, asylee status, and there are things like that. So naturally, families kind of split up in that process. So would you say, I guess your experience as it relates to, the family dynamic, would you say that this is somewhat of a common experience for people who, I guess, have experienced wars or conflicts in their countries?
I would say it's common. It's not that common. Well, but I do feel like it's common when people are from two different places, like my mom and my dad.
Okay, yeah.
Like,
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, if it's a different story if my dad was gonna be Liberian.
Right.
It would have been a different story. But because he was from a different country, he had to go back to his country, like, so he couldn't, like, and he couldn't force my mom to go, so it's something that's common, especially during that time. I'm just gonna be real. Liberia went through a 14 or 13 year civil war, and like, we saw a lot of things. Well, not we. I was about 2, so I saw things, but I don't remember them, thank God. But like, there were people that were older, and like my mom and my aunt, like the stuff that they saw, it was ridiculous. And I do believe that during that time, like, if your father was from a different country, that's when the displacement happened. Not so much if they were from the same country. If that answered it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, that definitely answers it. I guess I was thinking also on the side of, well, two additional questions kind of came out from that. So I know, like, in conflicts, war and situations like that, people naturally become displaced because, you know, families are kind of running in different directions.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, so people end up naturally having different families. Like maybe they had a family, their original family, but then because, you know, different movement happened, then they ended up meeting someone else. And then the other thing, do you think that, I guess, like what you mentioned, like with your mom and dad, do you think that's why many people today still feel like they don't really want to marry someone from a different country just because of what you explained, like how they feel that, you know, one person wants to eventually take the other person to their country and then the other person will feel left out? Or if you can talk more about that.
I can't speak generally, but from like my point of view, like being Liberian and Nigerian, like there's a lot of conflict between the two because Liberia and Nigeria are like, in terms of culture and in terms of like the way they are, Liberia is more open and willing to, like, you know, foreigners and stuff, and Nigeria is more like, I don't know, like I would say closed off or whatever. They're very strong in tradition. So with that being said, when it pertains to like Liberians and Nigerians, like they don't really like to intermingle because they're intrigued. But as far as like marrying them, the possibilities are like lower because I've had several like Nigerian guy friends, and they're like, they kind of look down upon Liberia as a country. So it's like, how do you marry someone you look down upon? So I don't know if that answers it properly. So yeah, yeah. So yes, they are scared to marry outside, especially like, and I'll speak personally, like my grandmother is like totally against me, like she's totally against me like marrying a Nigerian man, because she's like, yo, like look what happened with your mom. And the typical thing is Nigerians do not marry non-Nigerians. Like they don't. If you don't have Nigerian blood in you, they don't marry you. And that's not the case with everyone, but like majority of the time that's what it is. So my grandmother's like, no. My mom's like, I mean, those are your people. I can't tell you not to, you know, love your people or want to marry your people. But yeah, my family's very conflicted when it comes to that. Like I said, I don't know my dad's side of the family, but through experiences, yeah, they don't want to intermingle.
I mean, you just mentioned like we discussed earlier, like, you know, the man that stepped in as your dad or that you knew as your dad all these years. So would you say like your birth father's, you know, absence, would you say that it affected your relationship at all with men growing up and even now?
I do, because I've just always seen men as temporary. Like
that's deep.
I was raised by strong, like the women in my family, my mom's side, are super independent and strong. Like they're business owners, they're like leaders, you know, like they're very strong-willed, you know? And from what I've seen growing up, like the men were just very temporary, especially when my mom, before my mom got remarried to my stepdad, it was just like, you know, her boyfriend would come and give me money, you know, he would give me money and, you know, act like, you know, he really cared. But mind you, he's just like doing it so, you know, like to get cool points with my mom. So I literally used to like time them. I'm like, okay, mind you, I'm like 3 or 4. I used to be like, all right, this one's gonna be there. Yeah, I'm telling you, like, I'm like, no, not 3. I'm like 4, 5, 6, yeah, like that age, around that age range. So I'm like, this one is gonna last about 3 months. Let me get some money out of him. You know, let me make him do this. Let me make him do that. And then I'm gonna terrorize him, and then he's gonna leave my mom. And then it's gonna be me and my mom again. So that was our routine for years. Like, And I'm not ashamed of that. Like, that was our routine for years. Like, until my stepdad stepped into the picture and proved me wrong, most of them were like temporary. So I always saw men as something temporary, something that you don't, like someone that you don't need, or they never stay. Like, yeah.
With this, I guess on the other side, I guess like on the reverse of that, how would you say your relationship? How about your relationship with your mom or other women? Did this kind of affect that as well?
With that being said, yes, it did. Yeah. It made me cling on to women more than, like when it came to my friendships, like, because of, I don't want to put labels on it or whatever, right? Because of like, that's who I'm used to, like being around women and stuff like that. I was super like obsessive with my girlfriends. Like, if they didn't call me, I'd be like, why didn't like we're dating, and my best friend had to be like, girl, calm down. We're not in a relationship. Like, I'm your best friend. I'm not going anywhere. I don't have to call you every day, Like, I was super clingy growing up, like when it came to like my women friends, like, because I had a higher value for women than for men, like, just because of how I was raised. So I was super clingy, if that answers the question. Yeah.
But how about, like, would you say that you had some resentment towards your mom growing up because of your dad's absence?
I did at first, and it was only because I didn't know the story. Right. I just felt like she was being selfish. Like, just tell me, like, for me, the family that I have, even my mom's family, like, I don't know my mom's whole family. Like, it's a very small few people, and we're very tight knit. So like, outside of those people, I don't know nobody else. So I'm like, bro, like, well, not bro, but like, sis, like, I already don't know like your side of the family. Now I don't, like, I'm a whole totally different culture and I don't know them. And also growing up with like Nigerian movies, I remember like, I remember this, I think I was like about 8 or 9. And we used to watch the movies, Nigerian movies, and it was all witchcraft back then in the in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I remember probably 2000s, because I came to America in 98. So it was probably like in the 2000s or whatever, early 2000s. And it was a bunch of witchcraft. And my aunt used to be like, "You're Nigerian." I'm like, "No, I'm not Nigerian. Those people are wicked." And it's just like to have a full circle moment and be like, actually, like the people that, it was just so funny to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So this, like, it's crazy. How often would you say that you think of, I know like when you first kind of told me this, you kind of, when you told me everything, then after that you kind of shut down a little bit, and then you kind of opened up again to like wanting to talk about this. And then obviously we're having this episode tonight. So would you say, like, how often do you think about, your dad, or that kind of missing piece in your life? Would you say that it affects your day-to-day life, or how would you respond to that?
Before therapy, it did affect my day-to-day life. Like, and I think the main reason why I did that was because, like, when I lived with my mom and my stepdad, and they have 2 kids together, and my stepdad's very like an active dad. Like, he's like there for my sisters. Like, like my little sisters are daddy's girls. So like, seeing that relationship, it really used to like piss off. I'm not even gonna lie, excuse my language, because I felt kind of cheated, like, okay, if this was gonna be the situation at first, I was like, why didn't you just let me like go with my dad? Like, if that was the case, because it's just, I always felt left out. I always felt left out before I got therapy, and I rebelled a lot. Like, I wasn't a rude child, but I'm very like stubborn, I would say. So like I would do like stupid stuff to get attention, and like just dumb stuff. Do I think of it daily? No. At the time, I did think of it daily as a kid, like maybe from the time I found out to about my early 20s or something like that. I used to think about it constantly. Like, I want to know my dad, like, and I like, did Facebook stuff about, like I said, my dad's my dad's name is very common, and I don't know his Nigerian name. So it's like, it was just like a lot of dead ends, and I got really frustrated, and I just, like, for my sanity, I needed to shut down and just like pray, gather my thoughts, and like just, it's tough sometimes. But after therapy and dealing with my feelings and, learning how to manage them and stuff like that, manage my emotions, I don't think about it like daily. I think I would think about it like maybe every couple of months, like every 3 or 4 months, I don't know. Or like, and now that I think what was very good for closure was that they found a picture of him, and I have it like in my room. Oh. So like sometimes I'll just look at it and I'll be like, where the hell are you, Henry? Oops. Whatever. I'll be like, where the hell are you, Henry?
Yeah. I'm actually happy that you said that, because I wanted to ask you, like, do you think, now obviously you're an adult, obviously living, doing what you need to do. Do you think, or do you feel that your mom or grandma are against you kind of seeking out this information, like trying to connect with your dad? Like, how do you feel that they kind of look at that? Like, is there any like resistance on their side?
At first, there was, for honestly, like my grandmother's like, I love my grandmother to death, but she's very tribalistic, and she protects, she's like a mama bear. Like, she protects her cub. Yeah. So anybody that comes against her cub, she doesn't with you, like, and my dad like really came against her cub. So she's like, that, like, it's okay. You can go do whatever you want to do. Like, you can go search, but it's not like, it's like, oh yeah, I'll help you. Right. Like, they have no information to help me with it. Like, they have no information, allegedly. I'm just kidding. I love Bow Wow. Oh no. They have no information though, like, to help me with the search. But my mom's only thing is like, she's hoping that I find my dad before like I become the billionaire that I'm meant to be. Yes. Because she's like, if you find him or like if he finds you after you're a billionaire, like, I'm gonna cuss his ass out, basically. So she's really hoping like I find him before I become the billionaire that I'm supposed to be. But at first she was very like standoffish. It took her a while to like open up and stuff like that about it. Cause I'd be like, yo, was Henry like this? Was Henry like that? But now she's like, she wants me to find him because she knows, like, she had a great relationship with her dad. So she knows how it is. Like, and she sees how it is for my sisters. So she wants that for me. But it's just like, at the same time, she's kind of like still, a little pissed off at him. Like, you could have done more, like, You mentioned earlier that you kind of felt left out, like, and you acted out as a result of it. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, why did you feel, obviously I know why you felt left out, but did your dad, your stepdad ever make you feel that way? Or is it just that something that you personally felt like, I'm not having, Okay. When it was just me, my mom, and him, I never felt that way because I was the only kid. Right. But like when they had a kid together and I saw like, it kind of like shifted a little. Like, and then I'm the oldest. So like, they didn't understand how to deal with like me as a teenager. And he would just like shut down and like, he wasn't really like, like, whereas if I was like, his blood, he would take more time with me. He just didn't know what to do, I would say. It was his first time experiencing a teenager and like my crazy mood swings and this and that. So he didn't know how to deal with that. So like, they made a lot of mistakes, as you're the firstborn. So, Oh yeah. Like they make a lot of mistakes with us. And then when they get to the second and third, they're like perfect, or like, we think they're perfect, but they still, so I feel like with that, like, and I mean, like, I guess because I acted out or whatever, it was more like I had more rules. Like they were more strict on me. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah, I can relate.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I guess because we're the oldest. I don't know, but they were more strict on me. Like growing up, I always tell this story to my mom. Like, you guys are getting soft. Growing up, Monday through Friday, we don't watch TV. We went to Catholic school. When you
okay.
get home, you take off your uniform, you eat, you know, wash your hands or whatever. You eat, you go do your homework. No watching TV Monday through Friday. When they had my little sister, that little girl, she could watch TV anytime she wanted to. Like, you know, like they didn't have like, it wasn't that structured. Like he tried at first. Like my first little sister, like, yeah, he tried with her, like, you know, as far as like, you know, teaching her how to read. Like he took her everywhere. Like that was like, you know, like I said, they had a daddy and daughter relationship. So like, yeah, like once my little sister was born, it kind of like shifted and I saw like, you know, the differences. So I clung to my mom more.
You okay, sis?
I'm okay. I'm not crying. I just have something in my eyes.
Oh man. Well, just to kind of make it a little bit more lighthearted, because I know it's one of those topics like it makes you sad, but then you laugh at the same time. Like it's I understand. It's tough. But sis, I think the other thing too, I think part of it being that we were born back home, our experience will always be different from our siblings who were born here. And also, like you said, we were the first ones, so they were still like learning with us versus the ones that came after. They kind of have a lot more freedom than we ever did.
Yeah. And I think, so like I was saying, I kind of clung to my mom for everything. Like,
right.
But anyways, she was like my mom and my dad, and she kind of like, my mom like really did make sure like I didn't feel that way.
Right. I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, I'm happy that your mom was both parents for you. And then obviously your stepdad as well.
Also, like I had my aunt and I had my grandma. So like,
exactly.
My aunt was, you know, like, so it worked out. It worked out, I guess.
To be honest, I would say that you're quite fortunate because like for me personally, I don't have like my extended family, like everyone is literally back home. So I literally just have like my immediate family and obviously now my husband too. And then, you know, the people here that I've kind of connected with, like, you know, all these like African aunties, African uncles kind of situation and people that you kind of create as your family here in the diaspora. So, I mean, the fact that you have like your aunts and cousins and people here, like for real, and your grandma too, like, I think that's the beautiful thing that you have that much of your family here. Like, so I'm happy that at least, you know, even though, you know,
it worked out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy at least that your mom, you know, tried to connect you with, you know, I mean, that you're connected with you know, other people in your family and, you know.
Yeah, for us, like my grandmother, when she filed, because we went from, oh damn, I forgot I was born in Sierra Leone. Anyways, whatever, y'all. Like, I'm all over the place. Yeah. So we went from Sierra Leone. We went to Ghana. We spent 2 years in Ghana, and and then my grandmother sent for 10 people. So like it was my mom, my aunt, my uncles, like, you know, like it was 10 of us that came to this country. So that became like my family. Huh?
I said, shout out to grandma for doing that.
That's shout out to grandma for real. Like my
amazing.
My grandmother is the GOAT. Yo, like she literally freaking slept on floors, worked 3 jobs, made sure we had everything. I had like the best childhood. I can't ever lie. Like honestly, my mother's family's so supportive. Like I knew I didn't have a dad, but I really didn't like lack anything.
Right.
As far as like, you know, money wise or whatever. We went to Catholic school, even though we didn't live in the best neighborhood. We went to Catholic school. We always had food on the table. We always had clothes on our backs. like they gave us a pretty good childhood. I can't like
Yeah,
they did a great job. Like,
I love that.
yeah, so I'm really fortunate to have a supportive family. And even to this day, like
Yes.
my aunt is like she's a business owner, like, you know, and my mom's a manager somewhere, and my aunt owned I mean my grandmother owned several businesses back home.
Several. Yes, I
So
love that.
yeah, we're bosses, you know. That's why I say I'm a future billionaire, because
Yes,
I
yes, of
mean
course.
I come look at my lineage. Like so like yeah, I come from a good family. I'm glad. Like I'm very fortunate to, you know, have a supportive family. They
Oh yeah.
always made sure, like one minute I wanted to be a freaking model. My mom paid 2,000 for me to
Oh,
go to
nice.
Barbizon.
Oh my gosh, Barbizon is. I've
It's
heard some stories about them.
such an interesting place. But I
Yeah.
met some really nice people, like my lifelong friends with Barbizon. And I actually was fortunate enough to do a runway show in, what's the place called? Canada. So
Oh
that was
wow.
fun.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was
Hmm.
like 18 or something like that. Whatever. I just thought I was gonna be a model to y'all. But I was like, mind you, I'm like 5'4" or whatever. Like, but in heels, like I would always lie and say I'm like 5'7", because in heels I'm 5'7".
Yeah.
And I was like 125 pounds, but I had like these, you know, like certain things, like you just like, you know, you're not gonna be a model girl. Like you just know, like sis, you're not.
The fact that your mom
But
believed in you and encouraged you,
oh
that's
yeah, my
beautiful.
mom's super supportive. Like my whole family, like anything I want to do, like they support me 110%. When I went to I had studying abroad in 2011 to Costa Rica, they paid for
Oh, nice.
that.
Nice.
Yeah, they paid for that. Even with my business that I have now. Even with my business that I have now, they're super supportive.
Right. This is like you mentioned therapy earlier, and I think that's a very important point that you said, because I know for, when we were growing up, for us in the African diaspora, for Black
Yes.
Americans, for African, for wherever you are in the diaspora, that's not something that is looked upon favorably. It was
Yes.
always something that's like, oh, that's only for, rich white people. That's not an African
Yeah.
problem. That's not a Black person problem. But,
Yeah.
thankfully in our generation today, many people are seeking it out because, to be honest, a lot of us have a lot of traumatic things that we've experienced.
Exactly.
Even if you don't think of it in that way, if you like really take the time to kind of reflect, we experience many things either
Yeah.
directly or indirectly. Maybe the communities we grew up in, maybe our families, just many things. So, how would you say that therapy has helped you, and what would you kind of encourage others as it relates to that?
Therapy is awesome. Like therapy saved my freaking life. Like honestly, like the type of person that I am, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So that's a good and a bad thing. So if I'm and generally I've been super like in tune with my emotions. Like I'm like, I don't care. Like I say I say whatever I want to say or whatever like that. So I said that to say this. If I said I'm gonna do good, I'm gonna
Mhm.
do good. But if I say I'm going to do bad, you best believe I'm gonna do bad. So growing up, like I have a mouth on me, and I don't know how to argue. So a lot of the times used to resort to physical, situations. Like I used to get physical, like, oh, you get on my nerves, let's just fight and get it over with. Like, like there's no talking. Like, what are we talking about? Like, no. And being raised the way I was raised, it's like up north, like you don't do talking. Like it's, are you gonna fight about it? If you're not gonna fight about it, then shut up.
Right.
So I mean, like, I was very like that type of person. Like I was very aggressive all the time. I still am. I mean, I'm Liberian and Nigerian, so you would imagine, the the nonsense that goes on with my blood. Like it's a lot of clashing going on. So I was very unstable. Like I would always I would like take things to heart so easily. I was always like in my head, like if I always made things about me, like say my friend was busy and she couldn't call me, I'd be like, why aren't she calling me? Like, you know, I was very erratic and just like all over the place, like super needy and all that. And I remember my best friend told me, she was like, you really need to deal with like your dad issue and like other issues. Like you need to go to therapy because like it's not healthy the way you're lashing out. It's not healthy. And I was like, you're right. And I apologized to her and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do it. But I didn't really do it until like the pandemic hit.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There was a free therapy session called by Taraji P. Henson called the Boris, what's her last name? Hudson. No, what's her last name again? Taraji Henson.
Yeah.
The Boris, I think it's Boris P. Henson, or something like that. Something with Boris. Yeah. They were offering free therapy. And I was like, you know what? And at that time I had just I moved to a new place and I had no choice but to be alone. I was very alone and I couldn't like, you know, my friends couldn't come over all the time and stuff like that. So I had to learn how to be alone. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this time to self-reflect and I'm going to take therapy. Of course, I'm a believer in God. I believe Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. So like praying is good. Like I have to pray, but it also helps to talk to somebody that's not your sister or your mom, somebody who's non-biased. So anyway, long story short, I applied and I got this really great therapist. Like I love her so much. Like, and I had a couple of sessions and we just like worked through my emotions and like she taught me how to like manage things and like how to like meditate and how to like not take things to heart. Like, you know, people are going through their shit. Like, don't make it about you all the time. Like, you know? True. And I was so grateful. I came out of therapy like so much better. And even though we didn't really get to the root of the problem, which was like my abandonment issues with my dad. Yeah. Because it was the pandemic and she had kids and, you know, it didn't work out. We didn't have time or whatever. But therapy literally saved my life. It taught me how to manage things because the road I was headed down, like, I would fight for everything. Like, the littlest things, like, don't play with me. And especially, and this is why I say, don't talk about my family. Like, that's like my Achilles heel. You talk about my family, you talk about my friends or anyone I love, we're fighting. So I learned how to deal with it, like, and manage my emotions. And also, like, my best friend, he's a guy. And he's like, he's like, why are you always allowing people to control your emotions? And he just, like, he was my therapist before my therapist. So I definitely recommend therapy for Black people. We go through the most trauma. Like, it's cool to pray and stuff. It's cool. Like, God, we love God. God can change anything, but it's also good to just talk it out. Get it off your chest. Like, talk to, like, you know, a physical person. I mean, you know, talk to somebody that's trained to help you deal with certain things. Yes. So I definitely feel like we should do it. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger because honestly, like, as an African woman, you're looked at as, oh, if you express your emotions and you're weak. I didn't care. From the time I was little, like I danced to the beat of my own drum or whatever the analogy is.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I did what I wanted to do. Like, so I never really paid attention to all that noise. Like no. But definitely therapy strengthened me a lot. Therapy plus meditation plus praying for me, like, yeah, dope. If you are going through trauma, everyone's going through trauma. Everyone has trauma. Everyone has baggage. Like, if you keep just piling it on, you're going to explode, and it's not cool. Like, and oftentimes you're going to explode on the people that love you. You're going to harm the people that love you the most. Right. So just seek help. Like, just get help. So yeah.
I mean, so thank you so much for sharing that, because I think, and you mentioned something very powerful. But what you said was powerful. I mean, of course, you can always have your friends. Like, I know you and I always joke about this. Like, I'm the unpaid, untrained.
You're my unpaid therapist, and Q needs to be paid for real. Like, for real.
It's just like what you said. I mean, it's true. Like, it's good to share with your friends, but sometimes you really need, because your friends can always kind of give you a certain level of advice. But at the end of the day, if you're putting your weight on them and they have no way to like really process it, it doesn't help you that much, and it definitely doesn't help them, because it becomes a burden to them. So definitely seek out, therapy and professional therapy.
Exactly.
So just to round up a little bit, if you could just tell us, what have you learned about yourself in the process of trying to connect with your dad's side of the family and his culture? And then also, if you can give some advice to people who are looking to learn more about their family history when there's one parent that's not, actively in the picture.
What I learned is that it doesn't matter if you didn't grow up with that side. Like, I always tell you, and I tell like my Nigerian friends, like, whether or not I grew up with my Nigerian side, like, I have Nigerian blood running through my veins. So like, there's certain things that I do that is like totally like Nigerian, and like my shape is totally Nigerian. Most fucking Liberians have different shape. Like, so I learned, like, with 23andMe and Q, my trusty Igbo sister. I learned that my dad is from, my mom told me, at first she told me he was Igbo, I guess, because, I don't know, I guess that's what he told her, I don't know. But for the longest, I thought I was Igbo. And then we had to, like, debunk that, because, like, I have a specific Nigerian name, and that's not in the Igbo language. And I have a specific, like, last name, and that's not a Igbo last name. Right. So we had to go back to the drawing board. And Kira and I were really busy. We had to go back to the drawing board, and we found out that I was, what is the word again, Kira?
To be honest, I keep forgetting, because we've seen, like, we've looked up so many different places.
Oh, Kuruko or something like that. I don't remember.
I think Orobo or something like that.
Orobo or something like that. But basically, my dad's from Port Harcourt, and he's from Bonny Town, to be exact. And I was just like researching the culture and stuff like that. And I mean, it was cool. Like, there's rich culture. I want to get to know it more. And it really helped me. Like, I figured that I was very resilient, because there were a lot of dead ends. And I just kept on going and going and going. And I'm going to continue to keep going until, like, I find him, because, like, yo, what's up? But what was the other question?
It's actually, you answered both. Like, what have you learned, and then what advice can you give to people who are looking to find out their family?
The advice I can give is, like, purchase like an African DNA test or whatever, or like an ancestry from Africa. That's what I didn't do. I did 23andMe because I'm like, it's genes, like, but I already knew I was Nigerian, like, but I just needed that. I needed that, like, physical proof to be like, yes, solidified. Like, I needed that. Like, it's my genes, you can't lie about that. Mm-hmm. But I'm definitely going to purchase the African one, the AfricanAncestry.com, to see exactly, to know exactly where or whatever I'm from.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I would say do that. I would say talk to the parent that you do have,
Right.
the one parent that you do have, get as much information as you can and give them grace because like I said earlier, I didn't really give my mom grace like at first because I didn't think like, oh, yo, like this dude really broke my mom's heart. Like to be pregnant at the age that she wasn't like totally young, no, like she was in her 20s. I mean, my mom was in her 20s but like, you know, to be pregnant in Africa, unmarried, it's a big disgrace. We all know that. So I didn't think about that until later on, like what that did for her, like what people said about her, you know, and then he's from another country. So like all of that, you know, all of that, it can be like shameful,
Right.
you know? And I didn't want my mom to like, I didn't want to keep hurting my mom, but I needed answers. So I just gave her grace. I forgave her and I asked her to forgive me because like I was very, 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 like I said, I'm stubborn. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. Like I need, you know, like chop chop. I guess. Like let's go. I don't care if it hurts you. I don't care. Like I need to know. So at first that was what it was. So like we had to apologize to each other and I gave her grace. Like I'm not gonna lie, like for a long time, like I made her feel guilty and like I did a lot of manipulative things because I was hurting and I was like, yo, like you're not being fair, but I didn't think about how it was affecting her to even unpack that to her child. Like to know like you don't have all those answers for your kid. It's like kind of like shameful. And I don't ever want my mom to be ashamed. Like my mom's awesome. Like she's the most beautiful woman I know. And she's super smart. She's like all about her kids and her husband and the people around her. My mom would give like the clothes off her back to anyone. Like that's how nice she is. Sometimes I have to be like, yo, chill out. Like you're doing too much. So like I protect her at all costs. That's why I could care less about, you know, what people think about me or whatever. But when it comes to my family, when it comes to my parents, no, like, that's why, no. So just give that parent grace. Long story short, give that parent grace. If you're from Africa, like get the African DNA ancestry test. Even if you're Black American, like get the African ancestry test so you can know what part of Africa people are from. Because at the end of the day, life started on the continent of Africa. So you know, we're all African. So yeah. Be resilient, be consistent, like try to get, you know, you're gonna hear a lot of no's on your journey because I'm still trying to and Kiri might know a relative of mine, but I'm just so scared of like I've been rejected and it was so many dead ends. I'm just like really taking my time with that other one. I'm taking my time with that, but like yeah, don't be scared. Like you're supposed to know this. You deserve to know that other side of your family. So just continue to be resilient, continue to be consistent, and take breaks for your mental health. Take breaks, go to therapy, take breaks, because you can't pour it from an empty cup.
Right.
Like oftentimes I would do that. Like I would search, and then I would get drained and like disappointed, and I cried a lot. I mean, I cry naturally. Like that's how I get things, you know, I get things like out that I can't physically say. I cry. So yeah, just be consistent. Keep trying, pray about it. Ask whoever you believe in to lead and guide you. Yeah. And eventually you'll find your relative by God's grace.
Yeah. I really love that, sis. I mean, I know it took a lot for you to, you know, share this. So I really appreciate you. It's not easy to kind of go through this. And, you know, I really hope that one day you will be able to, you know, connect with your dad. And I hope that it will be a beautiful reunion.
Yeah.
So
I mean, thank you so much for providing this platform, because like I feel so like light right now, like just getting it off my chest and talking about it. And I really feel like this could help other people, especially people in the diaspora and from Africa to be exact. It's not shameful to talk about these things. You deserve to know your family. Like,
right.
What are we here for if it's not to like know our family and to grow and to, you know, like there's a lot. And I feel like oftentimes I think like I run over and over my head, like, what am I going to do when I meet him? Like, am I going to cry? Like, am I going to be mad? Like, it just, I just go over a lot of things. Yeah. But yeah, I want to thank you so much, sis, for always just being there for me, listening, like hearing me cry. I cry a lot. And just like being so supportive, helping me research, and just like being a sister, like for real, like literally we've grown so much throughout this. I think it was the summer.
Yeah, or maybe I think
summer.
I think the pandemic really just brought people closer, to be honest, like and made them do a lot of like self-reflection.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
So I'm very appreciative of you. Like, I love our relationship. I love what you're doing. Continue to do what you're doing. You know, I always call you the future, you know, Oprah Winfrey. Like, you're gonna be great. Continue to do what you're doing. Continue to just, you know, be who you're meant to be. Walk in your truth. Know who you are. And don't be afraid to tell people who you are. Like, you know, you're Igbo, for goodness sake. You're an Igbo woman. Like, yes, I'm super proud of you. And I'm so proud of this platform. Like, all the beautiful stories that you have created. Like, you really go the extra mile to make people feel comfortable. Like, this interview has been, 2 months? Or I don't know how long we're supposed to do this.
Yeah, we've been planning this forever.
We've been planning this forever. For me, I don't like to be emotional. I don't like to, you know, I hate it.
Yeah.
But Q always makes it feel like she's like such a warm and welcoming spirit that, you know, you feel comfortable, you know, unloading. Sometimes I have to like draw back and be like, okay, like, you know, it has to be fair. Like, you know, It has to be a fair swap. I can't just always unload on her and she's not, you know, telling me things too, to like release her to vent or whatever.
Right,
so yeah,
right.
It's a good relationship. I love it. If you're out there and I know there's a lot of freaking Liberian and Nigerian kids. Yeah. Don't be ashamed to ask your parent, you know, ask your parent, get to know your other culture. Even if you can't like know your, you don't get to know that other side right away. Link up with people who are from that country, you know, so you can get a gist of it, you know. But yeah, thank you so much for just creating this free space. Make sure you guys like, follow, subscribe, you know, share this, make it go viral, you know.